Well, as a Buddhist monk is to practice for liberation, which is a long-term goal of inner peace, wisdom, freeing of consciousness from ordinary mundane misperceptions that tend to bind us to a certain way of living that doesn't really lead to happiness. So in a sense, my job as a Buddhist monk is to learn how to be happy, and then to teach others how to be happy. I'm still working at it.
Yeah.
But it's a gradual process. I've been a monk now for 21 years, and in the early years of being a monk, my main responsibility was just to be a good monk and to put my heart into practice, the Buddhist practice. A lot of intensive meditation, very different lifestyle than the middle class, upper middle class society that I was educated with. And then in the last 7 years, my role as abbot has been much more directly concerned with creating situations that are a benefit to other people. It always goes hand in hand, you know, benefiting oneself, truly benefiting oneself, and truly benefiting other people will always go hand in hand. I mean, you can't really have one without the other. The more we try to help other people, we're helping ourselves, if we're doing it wisely.
Yeah.
And the more we really help ourselves by purifying our heart, reducing anger, reducing greed, reducing our delusion, then that's about the best thing we can do to help other people as well.
Yeah. People at Carleton will be interested to know how you actually became a Buddhist monk, what path you took. So could you give an explanation of the path that you took and the process, kind of from just experimenting with meditation to where you are now?
Yeah, I can blame it all on Carleton. When I was probably sophomore around that time, started getting more and more interested in Eastern religions in particular. I think I took a course in comparative religion. Certainly Buddhism stood out for me as of the world religions that really interest me. Seem very practical, also very profound. So that interest gradually grew, and then I started meditating on the side a bit. Occasionally, a Japanese Roshi, Japanese teacher from the Zen tradition, would come down and give a talk at Carleton. He was a good friend of Bardwell Smith's, and never quite understood what he was trying to say, but he seemed very happy, and it seemed like there was a lot of potential there. So initially I became quite interested in Zen. In fact, in my senior year, Katagiri Roshi came and taught a course at Carleton, and as part of that he would come and lead us in meditation earlier in the morning, and then actually teach a course. So that was fantastic, really. You know, actually, it wasn't just getting credit, but actually merit.
Yeah.
And of course I had some wonderful professors. Bardwell Smith in those days was considered half divine, you know? And Roger Jackson, in my senior year, was his first year at Carleton, and he taught a course on mysticism, which was wonderful. And, of professors that were very inspiring and helped to plant wholesome seeds into my consciousness. I'd say Bardwell Smith and Roger Jackson. I have a lot of gratitude to them for that.
Yeah.
Once I started off majoring in political science.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know, somewhere along the line, I seemed to feel that that wasn't the path to ultimate happiness. I may have been wrong, but I decided to change my major to religion, mainly so I could study Eastern religions more in depth. My advisor did everything he could to dissuade me, but I stuck to it. And of course, you know, they were saying, well, religion's such an impractical major. What are you going to do with a religion major? In the end, I'm probably one of the few people that's actually working in the field what he majored in.
Yeah.
So I majored in religion, focusing on Eastern religions. When I graduated, then this 6-week Zen retreat led by Katagiri Roshi was happening in southern Minnesota. So without much meditation experience, I just decided to go ahead and dive into that, which was a pretty radical change of lifestyle, because while I was at Carleton, I wasn't living very much of a monkish lifestyle by any means. But you know, it was interesting at the 25th Carleton reunion, a lot of my old friends, you know, even the ones who were just more like music friends or party friends, they said, you know, I'm not surprised you're a monk, I could always see it there. So maybe they were seeing something that wasn't completely clear to me at the time.
Mm.
And then after graduation, so I did this very intensive 6-week meditation course. And that was pretty difficult, but it was also great. It was just wonderful, and I really took to the monastic lifestyle in a way that surprised me, surprised everyone else too. You know, showed up out of the blue with long hair and my drumsticks still in my back pocket.
Really?
So they think, well, how long is he going to last? But then, you know, I really took to it. So then, from that point on, I gradually did traveling around the States, traveling in Europe, but I would keep coming back and doing these long retreats and further retreats for like 2 months from that point on, and a lot of shorter retreats. And after the end of the first retreat, I thought, boy, you know, I could actually be a monk myself. Maybe when I'm 65 and I retire,
Yeah.
I've done everything. The kids are grown up. And but then a year later, after the second long retreat, it was much more profound, and I thought, well, life is short, it's fleeting. The path of practice isn't quite so easy. It really takes quite a few years of dedication. Maybe I should think about being a monk by around age 35 or so. You know, give myself another, 12 years or something, just to continue developing life experience. And then I was, traveling, getting lots of experience, doing wonderful things, not getting right into a full-time job, but doing a lot of wonderful things. And then after my third long retreat there in southern Minnesota, started to see that, well, if I'm going to do this, or if this is really what I consider to be the most important thing in life, what am I waiting for? Why don't I just dedicate myself to do it full time right now? Which, was kind of a radical thought to arise in my mind, because it entailed giving up a lot of things that I assumed I really couldn't give up or didn't want to give up. I always had assumed I'd have a family, would keep playing music, etc.
Yeah.
so it was a surprise to me as well when gradually the importance of practicing the Dhamma, the teachings of the Buddha, eclipsed my interest in other areas. But it was a very gradual process, a very natural process. And so by the time I've been meditating for a few years, I just felt quite happy to say, well, this is something that is really worth dedicating myself to, dedicating my life to. And it just had such tremendous potential and depth, and could be taken to many, many different levels.
So you spoke some about how your experience at Carleton influenced the path that you took. Can you talk some about non-academic impacts that the Carleton culture or the lifestyle may have had in the path that you chose after graduation?
Yeah, I think just the general open-mindedness of Carleton is very helpful. Spent a lot of time communing with nature in the Arb. Hill of Three Oaks in those days was almost a spiritual place.
Really?
Because we didn't have the rec center there, and where the rec center is now is pretty much all just forest. So Hill of Three Oaks was like surrounded by forest. And there were actually 3 oaks, big oaks there. And it just had this almost like sacred feel about it. There were also probably just some things which were educational in the sense of finding out what I didn't want to do. I was a musician and tended to hang out with a bit more of the wild crowd. And you could see at some point that there's a certain destructiveness of the lifestyle, just with being too hard on one's body. So I also saw that there are certain things that I really didn't want to pursue. So that was helpful in that way as well.
Yeah. So it sounds like exploration is a definite theme that helped you find your own path, and that Carleton was able to provide a culture that is accepting and even encouraging of exploration.
Yeah.
That was helpful.
Yeah, I feel really fortunate that I ended up at Carleton, and there was such a encouragement to explore and to have a bit of individual creativity in what we were looking into. And this was even a bit more of a conservative time. This was like the Reagan years. But there was still very much that undercurrent there at Carleton that encouraged free thinking. I suppose exploration and even after graduation was still very much part of what I was doing when I was traveling. I would do that as almost like a spiritual practice, or a practice for personal growth. And it really learned a lot about myself just through traveling.
So I wonder what you think, a career should be to somebody who may not go into the monastic lifestyle, but who still wants to do something beyond making money.
Well, I think almost everyone can see that the world's in a bit of a mess in many ways, and so we need intelligent, motivated people to work, do something for benefit of everybody. Because, the whole world is so interconnected now, so much more obviously interconnected that finding ways to be of benefit to others in some way is going to obviously be useful to others, but probably be much more satisfying personally, much more conducive to happiness than if you were working for a corporation and you knew that the corporation had certain investments which led to the impoverishment of certain third world countries, or was producing pesticides so that led to a lot of health problems for people, or, you know, so it's much easier to look yourself in the mirror and feel really good about yourself and have a positive sense of self-esteem with a career which you really feel good about. Yeah. Much more important than making money.
Yeah.
I mean, you only make money with the idea that this is going to make you happy with what you can buy with the money. But it's a good question to ask, how much do we need to be happy?
Yeah.
You know, if we have clothes on our back and a roof over our heads and enough food, how much do we need in addition to that to be happy? It's something that everyone has to figure out for themselves. But certainly, whatever we do for a living, we're making a lot of karma. I mean, everything we do with intention, everything we say with an intention, even what we think, is making karma. And if we're working at something 40 hours a week, we're making a lot of karma doing it. And so if we're smart enough or fortunate enough to have a job where we can be making good karma as well as supporting ourselves, then that's probably a pretty good situation.
Yeah. So in about 6 months, the Carleton class of 2011 is going to graduate. Some of them know exactly what they want to do, and others are confused, stressed, and clueless. Do you have any advice?
Yeah, I would say come here.
Okay.
for both.
Yeah.
The ones who think they know what they want to do are sometimes just don't admit they're confused.
Yeah.
Well, one of the ways that everyone can make a positive difference is to work on their own purity of consciousness. Because as long as we have tendencies towards greed in our heart, then it will manifest. And so much of the problems in the world have come from just excessive desire, just manifested exponentially through societies and corporations and billions of people. And you can see how this just caused so many problems environmentally, etc. So learning how to be content is something that doesn't just come because it's a good idea, but it actually takes some mental training or contemplation, looking at life in different ways, and reducing anger. That's obviously beneficial for everyone around us. If we're more patient and forgiving and kind and loving and not prone to being angry, then that's a great gift to all of our friends and family, and ripples from that go out. So even if you have a few people who are just living a normal life, a normal family life, if they're doing it with a pure heart, then that's already has effects, has positive effects in the world. So those are some ways that people can do something which is both beneficial for themselves and also beneficial for others. And not to rush into a career. My early 20s, I look back in those and I feel very grateful that I allowed myself to travel, to feel no pressure to have to get involved very quickly in a career. I did so many things that I really loved doing. It was just a wonderful experience. And when I was in high school and college, every summer I'd save up a bit of money, so by the time I graduated, I actually had enough money that I could live very simply, but travel and move around and just do a lot of the things that laid, I think, a really good foundation for whatever I was going to do later in life.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose the best advice that I followed was allowing myself to follow my heart and just trusting that was okay, because rationally we can come up with lots of reasons why we should do certain things, or there may be pressure from family or society or just from within ourselves to feel that we should follow certain paths, traditional paths. But what's more important, and definitely what's going to lead to one's happiness, as well as I think what's really going to work, is when people look into their hearts and say, what's important to me, and then be willing to follow